Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're not just throwing random football predictions today at you, we're hunting edges. I'm using a stats model that gives us a hit rate and a fair odds line for every match. Then we compare that to the bookie odds and only touch the spots where we've actually got value, where our probability is higher than the price they're offering. So if I say over 1.5 goals or over 2.5 goals in a game, you'll see the model hit rate, the fair odds, and the edge on screen. That way you're not betting vibes, you're betting numbers. Remember, it's still football, nothing is guaranteed, but if you stack these small edges over time, you start thinking like a pro bettor, not a casual. Grab a drink, manage your stakes, and let's dive into today's best value plays. Spurs versus Liverpool, and this one just screams goals. Tottenham host Liverpool in what should be a high-tempo, chaotic Premier League game. Two teams that press high, attack in waves, and leave oceans of space in behind. For this match, my main play is over 1.5 goals. Our model gives this line about an 89% hit rate, which converts to fair odds around 1.12. Bookies are hanging 1.22, so we're getting roughly a plus 7% edge on a market that already lands almost 9 times out of 10. That's the kind of small but real advantage we love to stack every day. If you want to be a bit spicier, over 2.5 goals is also showing value, around 68% hit rate, fair odds roughly 1.47, while the market is at 1.69. I'll treat over 1.5 as the safe core pick and over 2.5 as an optional add-on for bigger odds. As always, manage your stakes and don't chase. We play the long game with real edges. Next up, we're heading to the Etihad for Manchester City versus West Ham, and this one is pretty much built for goals. City at home are a machine. They press, they keep the ball, and once the first goal goes in, the game usually opens right up. West Ham don't park the bus as much as people think either. They've got enough threat in transition that City can't just completely relax. My model gives over 1.5 goals hitting around 93% of the time, which converts to fair odds of about 1.08. The bookies are still hanging around 1.11, so it's a small but real edge, roughly a plus 3% value gap in our favor. So for this game, I'm keeping it simple. I'm on over 1.5 goals. Not sexy, but it's a high confidence, high hit rate leg that's perfect as a core piece in doubles or a safe builder. Stack edges like this and the bankroll grows slowly but surely. Next up, we've got RB Leipzig versus Bayer Leverkusen, and this one just screams goals. Both sides love to play front foot football. They press high, they commit numbers forward, and they're not scared to trade chances. When these two types of teams meet, chaos usually follows. My model gives the over 1.5 goals a hit rate of 89%. Turn that into fair odds and we get around 1.12. The bookies are hanging 1.117, so we've got roughly a plus 4% value edge on this spot. And remember, for this bet we don't need a classic 4-3 Bundesliga thriller. Any scoreline with at least 2 goals gets us paid. 1-1, 2-0, 3-0, whatever. If you want to be a bit greedier, the over 2.5 is also showing value. Fair odds around 1.47, bookies at 1.55, so there's a small plus there as well. But the main play for the portfolio is simple. RB Leipzig versus Bayer Leverkusen. Over 1.5 goals. Our next value play is in Germany again. Hamburg versus Eintracht Frankfurt. Hamburg at home usually means an open game. Big stadium, big crowd, and a team that prefers attacking to sitting deep. Frankfurt are similar. Lots of pace going forward, and they're always happy to trade chances instead of shutting up shop. My model has over 1.5 goals landing here 89% of the time. That gives us fair odds of about 1.112. The bookies, they're still dealing 1.22, which means we're looking at roughly a plus 8.6% value edge on this line. Again, we only need 2 goals in the game. A 1-1, 2-0 either way, early goal, and the match can completely open up. Historically, these German fixtures don't stay quiet for long. If you want a bit more juice, over 2.5 also shows value, with fair odds around 1.54 versus market odds of 1.69, so that's close to a plus 10% edge. But for the main card, we're keeping it sharp. Hamburg SV versus Eintracht Frankfurt, over 1.5 goals. Next up, we head to Germany. VfB Stuttgart versus Hoffenheim, and this one just screams goals. Both sides are naturally front foot teams. They press high, they commit bodies forward, and when they meet, it's usually chaos rather than a tight chess match. My model gives over 1.5 goals, a 91% hit rate here. Turn that into fair odds and you get roughly 1.10. The bookies, though, are still hanging out at 1.16 on over 1.5. That might look short, but compared to the true price, it's actually a little gift, around a plus 5% value edge on a market that already cashes 9 times out of 10. I'll happily take the safer route here. Primary bet is over 1.5 goals. Over 2.5 is also very live. My model is around the low 60s for that, but the price doesn't quite beat the fair line, so I'm keeping that as a lean only. For the slip, I'm locking in over 1.5 goals in Stuttgart versus Hoffenheim as a solid value leg. Next up, we're heading to the Bernabeu for Real Madrid versus Sevilla, and this one is all about goals. Bookies have over 1.5 goals priced at 1.12, which already tells you they're expecting action. But our model is even more bullish. Based on long-term scoring trends for Real at home and Sevilla's tendency to concede against top sides, our numbers give this game around a 93% chance of seeing at least 2 goals. Turn that into fair odds, and you get roughly 1.08. So when the books are hanging 1.112, there's a nice little value gap. They're pricing it like it hits about 89% of the time. We've got it closer to 93%. That's roughly a plus 3.7% edge on a market that already feels extremely safe. Real's attack at home, the crowd under the lights, Sevilla needing to open up at some point. Everything points towards goals rather than a cagey 1-0. So for this match, we're keeping it simple and smart. Official pick, over 1.5 goals, a low-risk, high-confidence spot with a real mathematical edge behind it. For this game, we're in Istanbul, under the lights, and that Besiktas crowd is usually chaos in the best way. Rizespor are the underdogs here, but they don't exactly park the bus. They'll have to open up at some point, and that's usually when Besiktas games start to break. Our model has over 1.5 goals hitting around 89% of the time. That gives us fair odds of roughly 1.12, while the bookies are hanging 1.2. So even though this one doesn't reach the 90% hit rate club, the value gap is actually bigger than a lot of those. Implied probability from the book is about 83%. Our number says 89%. That's a 6 to 7% edge in our favor. So in the video, I'd frame this as noisy stadium, Besiktas usually involved in high-tempo games, Rizespor forced to chase at some stage, and the numbers backing up a simple line, over 1.5 goals, with a real statistical edge. Next up, we're in Switzerland for FC Sion versus FC Winterthur, and this is one of the biggest value gaps on today's card. My model has this game going over 1.5 goals in 92% of simulations. That's basically saying, in 11 out of 12 games, we expect at least 2 goals here. Turn that into numbers, and the fair odds should be around 1.09. But the bookies are still hanging 1.17 on over 1.5. That means the market is pricing this at about an 85% chance, while our model is up at 92%, a value edge of roughly plus 7.5%. In betting terms, that's a really solid margin for such a low line. So for this match, our play is simple. FC Sion versus FC Winterthur, over 1.5 goals. As always, it's still football. Weird stuff happens, so stake sensibly, manage your bankroll, and only bet what you can afford to lose. Next up, we're heading to the South Coast for Southampton versus Coventry. This is one of those games where the numbers and the eye test line up perfectly for goals. Southampton at St. Mary's have been pure chaos this season. High pressing, loads of chances, and a defense that always leaves the door slightly open. Coventry are no parking the bus side either. They're happy to trade punches, and recently they've been involved in plenty of open end-to-end games. My model gives over 1.5 goals and 90% hit rate. That translates to fair odds of about 1.11. The bookies are hanging 1.20 on over 1.5, which implies only around an 83% chance. So we've got roughly an 8% value edge here. The market is a little too cautious compared to what our numbers say. For over 2.5 goals, the model sits at 68%, or fair odds around 1.47. The books are out at 1.63, so there's still a decent 10-11% value gap if you want a slightly riskier, higher payout option. Personally, I like building this match into our goals accumulator through over 1.5 as a strong value leg, and then maybe sprinkling a bit on over 2.5 if you're comfortable taking on that extra variance. Either way, this fixture screams goals. and our edge backs it up. Next up, we head to Ipswich, and this one screams goals. Ipswich at home are one of those sides that just refuse to play boring football. They press high, they commit bodies forward, and they create a ton of chances, which is great for our goals market, even if you don't support them. Sheffield Wednesday aren't exactly a free-flowing attacking machine, but they do concede, and away from home they're usually forced into a bit of a scrap. My model has over 1.5 goals, hitting 90% of the time in this matchup. If we turn that 90% into fair odds, we get around 1.1 len. The bookmakers are hanging 1.1 which implies only about an 84 to 85% chance. So we've got roughly a plus 5% value gap between what the market is pricing and what the numbers say should happen. That's exactly the kind of small but consistent edge we're hunting every single day. As always, it's still football, weird things can happen, but in terms of pure probability versus price, Ipswich versus Sheffield Wednesday, over 1.5 goals at 1.18 is firmly on the smart bet side of the line. Next up, we're heading to Hungary for Paks versus Nyíregyháza, and this one screams goals. Paks are one of those teams that just don't do quiet afternoons. At home, they play front foot, press high, and normally turn games into a bit of a shootout. Nyíregyháza aren't exactly parking the bus either. Their away games open up quickly, especially once they concede the first goal. Our model has this fixture hitting over 1.5 goals in around 90% of simulations. That translates to fair odds of about 1.17. The bookies are sitting at 1.21, which means they're pricing this closer to an 82-83% chance. So again, we've got that little value gap we're hunting for. Model says this should be 1.11. Bookies are giving us 1.21. It's not a lottery ticket. It's a small but real edge over a long season. So for this one, the play is over 1.5 goals. Another spot where we're getting paid slightly better than we should for a game that loves goals. Next up, we're in the 2. Bundesliga, Kaiserslautern at home to Magdeburg. This is exactly the kind of game we love for goals. Two aggressive, front-foot teams in a league that rarely parks the bus. Our model gives over 1.5 goals and 91% hit rate here. Turn that into fair odds and you get roughly 1.1. But the bookies are hanging 1.16 on over 1.5. So what does that mean? The market is pricing this as about an 86% chance of at least 2 goals, while our numbers say 91%. That's a value gap of around 4 to 5 percentage points, which is a nice steady edge for a low-risk goals line. I'm not trying to be a hero on score lines or winners here. I just want us on the safest side of a game that should be played at a good tempo with chances at both ends. So for Kaiserslautern versus Magdeburg, our play is over 1.5 goals, using that small but real edge between the model and the bookies. Stack enough of these edges over the season, and that's how you grow a bankroll.